This is something that we don't really feel very comfortable with, and although there's a lot of criticism that we can have about Chinese companies, you see things appearing on social media like all these products are made by child labor. Well, there's no child labor in Chinese factories. Temu steals and sells your data. That would be really stupid if you want to become the largest e-commerce company. The Chinese Communist Party is spying on you because they are really interested in those t-shirts that you buy on Temu. Now, the fact that this is possible according to Chinese law doesn't necessarily mean that it happens. Also, we need to be very careful. Where are those claims coming from? Now, something that I see quoted quite often is research by Grizzly Reports. Now, if you know a bit of the background of Grizzly Research, they are short sellers. So they profit from stock values that go down. And if you actually go to their report on Pinduoduo, there's a disclaimer that you need to click away, and most people won't read that disclaimer, but that disclaimer says very clearly, the report and all statements are the opinions of Grizzly Research and are not statements of fact. Well, make of that what you will. But I wouldn't use this as factual proof. Also, there's a lot of campaigns that are started. For instance, shut down SHEIN, which says SHEIN is a drug and TikTok is the needle because they advertise on TikTok. If you know who's behind this, is a consultancy company that works for the textile industry in the US. So be careful with some of the things that you believe. Also, things that I say. Be critical. Because we need to apply Hitchens' razor, which basically says what can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence. If we don't do that, if we simply believe everything that we are saying, then we should be very worried about ourselves. Because what might actually be happening then is it's not factual, it's a witch hunt. And we should be very careful for that. That's why I constantly say we should be factual about the things that we claim and about the things that we use when we fight these new enemies. And we should also take a look at ourselves, because if you followed my story correctly, then you also might think, so who has been making these products in the same factories that now sell directly to the Western consumer? Huh? And if they were already using the same factories, were the labor conditions really so much better? Did SHEIN or Temu change the labor conditions? Well, I can tell you, no, they didn't. Who moved their supply chains to Bangladesh, etc.? Who created this overcapacity that the Chinese companies are now trying to fill by selling directly to us if our brands and importers won't buy it anymore? And what about lobbies, like the example I showed you? I can tell you that Facebook behind the scene, Meta, is lobbying very hard to get TikTok banned in the US because it's a Chinese app. But you never hear them complain about Temu. I wonder why. Remember that 3 billion in advertising money, where that went? So yes, we do need a level playing field, and there's a lot of things wrong about these products coming into our markets, especially from safety and product quality perspectives. But a level playing field is a level playing field for everybody. So we should make and enforce legislation that applies to all companies, not just Chinese ones. Now, if you look at France, they came up with this law that they want to add, I think it's something like 10 euro, was it 10 euro on every product? Because SHEIN makes so many different designs. But if you remember their business model, they make them in very low quantities. So actually, it's a rather sustainable business model. They should only be making better products. So actually, maybe we should look at the product quality, not at the number of designs. Maybe we should punish companies that are bringing in all of those products with low or high levels of bad polyester. But that would mean that it's not just SHEIN, but you might also have to look into some other companies that are also selling comparable products, not just the Chinese companies. So, take these things into account when you form your opinion. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that are wrong about Temu. What in China they say, people in TikTok shop, they are very much looking into compliance because they're under a magnifier. But Temu TikTok says Temu is getting on the bus and buying a ticket later, meaning that they arrange a website, they arrange the logistics, etc., and they will only think about compliance later on when we start complaining about them not playing according to our rules. So we should be very strict and very clear in what those rules are. So as far as that's concerned, I think it's a very good thing that Becom, but also other companies, other organizations in Europe are getting more critical about the product quality, but also about the DSA. So we should regulate these companies and have them play by our rules. But the biggest danger for everybody here today of Temu is that you might underestimate it. You might underestimate it. It took me 1 year of discussion to actually be allowed to tell this story here on the stage, and the same thing happened in many other places. It also happened with journalists. In the last half year, they started calling me to explain Temu. I've been writing about Temu since September 2022, and nobody thought it was interesting then. You might underestimate what these guys are capable of, and this might also happen here with your platforms. So, as a matter of fact, in China, they say, when Pinduoduo launched in China, they all laughed at Pinduoduo. They thought it was a ridiculous business model, it wouldn't work. And then it worked. And then the Chinese platforms started studying Pinduoduo. And if you look in 2023, what all of the major platforms like JD and Alibaba have done, is they tried to become Pinduoduo. They have changed their business model. So don't let this happen here, right? So be prepared. So what we need to do is we need to know the enemy. And we are extremely bad in knowledge about China. The Chinese are very smart and know a lot about us. We know very little. Probably most of you might not even have heard of Pinduoduo or their platform at gamification before. So you need to inform yourself, just like Sun Tzu says in The Art of War. Know both your enemy and yourself, and then you don't have to fear 100 battles. But we need to gain more knowledge. So one of the things that you can do, I write very extensive reports about Temu, but also other companies on TechBuzz China. So go and look at some of these reports. Build that knowledge. Also, we do study tours where we take retail experts to China for 1 week and actually explain how these things work in practice and have you feel the Chinese economy. So maybe go on one of those tours. Come along, we have one in April or in October coming up. But I don't want to leave before I tell you why I would like to see Temu disappear. Because we cannot deal with this. We cannot deal with the dopamine of buying a low price deal. So we also have to look at ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones that are buying all this shit.